Hello and welcome to whatever number podcast
I
this.
think it's week 8. I've lost count now.
I think it's it must be the 8th one by now. It's been a while since we started this. With me, Matt Fender, George Farrar, and Harry Morgan.
Hello.
Hello.
So, still technically under lockdown, but lives have been made a little easier, it seems, by what's been announced yesterday and today.
I mean, you both know who I support.
No prizes for guessing that.
I am like you two conservatives. However, I do think this has been a bit of a shambles.
What, the whole situation of the last 24 hours?
Yeah.
As in, I think it has been a bit unclear, to be quite honest. But
I generally support the government, especially in a time like this when there's a lot of tough decisions to make. But to be honest, I think it would have been better to just have no update
than the vague one that we got last night. I thought that was a bit too vague, in my opinion.
The problem that we have, though, is that we can't carry on with what we're doing indefinitely, because that would have been the only other option. Now, we have to we can't just end the lockdown like that. There's no clear way of putting what we
to be honest,
do.
I think
I do think the government could have communicated stuff a bit better, and I do appreciate.
I think that's what we meant.
And I do appreciate that on the East Coast, for example, there are concerns because about saying you can drive an unlimited distance so long as you don't cross over the border into England or Wales to go for exercise. Now, I appreciate concerns people have with that, but the whole point of all this as well is to try and get people to go back to work as well, because that's the issue at hand as well. Because
to be honest, I think it was just my only issue was that the thing they did last night. I think, to be honest, they should have just done. I take it you guys just watched this update in Parliament.
Yeah, I was watching that.
I haven't actually. I've had stuff to do.
I think what they should have.
There was a bit more information in that than last night.
They should have just done that, because that was so much more informative than what happened last night.
Though I guess last night was kind of like the prepare for what's going to happen tomorrow kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I get why he did what he did last night. Because it's alerting the nation to the fact that changes are going to come across, and then there'll be more detail about what the changes are going to happen, which has now come out today. But the issue that we have is we need to ease out of this. I mean, we can't just end the lockdown completely and arbitrarily, because that would risk a second spike happening. And I've had arguments with people about this who think we should now end the lockdown completely.
To be honest,
we can't.
There's going to be...
There'll be a second wave like in Japan if that happens.
There's going to be, without sounding doomy and gloomy, there's going to be a second wave everywhere.
Yeah, there is. But
no matter how much we prepare for it. I mean, South Korea's had a second wave, and they've been the country that's best dealt with it everywhere.
Their second wave, I wouldn't call what South Korea is going through at the moment a second wave. It's linked to one single outbreak at a Seoul nightclub. They're trying their best, and the South Koreans do have a very good system for identifying where you've been. It's a system that the government's currently trying to develop, and it's actually, in my view, surprisingly gone quite well thus far. But South Korea has had since the start of this a system where you can trace where you've been, who you've been in contact with, and whether you've been in contact with someone who might have coronavirus. Now, with a bit of luck, the South Korean government should be able to nip all of what's happened at this nightclub with an outbreak there in the bud, because of the systems that they already have in place. And South Korea never instituted a full lockdown. They kept cafes, bars, restaurants open. For example, it was other stuff. So, like, they shut offices. They minimised public transport. South Korea has some of the best public transport in the world. So, and it's like it's the same in different countries. That the definition of lockdown. I mean, you look at Sweden, for example, where there is
completely hands off.
Well, no, where you laugh at the Swedish approach, but actually, in many ways, the Swedish approach makes a lot of sense. Granted, Sweden has a much smaller. Granted,
exactly.
Sweden
There's
has
only about 5 people that live there.
Well, granted, Sweden has a smaller population,
more like 5 million,
and it's much more sparsely populated. But the whole point of the Swedish approach, and their foreign minister explained this, was in many ways it's better to have less restrictions for a longer period of time rather than have a complete lockdown for a long period of time where you're just going to incur public disgust.
Yeah.
That's the issue that the Swedish government have been confronting. And the epidemiologists, the people who chart all the death and infection statistics and death and infection rates, they were predicting, because Sweden hadn't instituted a full-blown lockdown, that they would have 500,000 deaths by Easter and 1 million deaths by the end of this month. They've had, I think, 2,000 deaths.
2,000, wow.
At the moment.
I suppose the other thing as well, though, is the majority of people in Sweden are very wealthy.
Yeah, I know. That is.
I think there's a burgeoning middle class.
There is a burgeoning middle class.
I'd say they're, on general, quite affluent.
Yeah, I think. Well, that's because they don't have any income tax, but there you go. Which, by the way, listeners and viewers, is meant to be a temporary measure going back to the Napoleonic Wars, but we still got it.
Something new you learn?
Yeah.
I think let's be honest, the only way out of this is a vaccine, or to get lots of people...
That's not until next year.
Measures...
Or a lot of people to get immune to it, which they were trying... Well, they did suggest herd immunity a while back, but then...
It was an idea that was floated that was never fully supported. But the issue that you have with not going with herd immunity, I mean, the Dutch have a policy of herd immunity. They did. Now, the Dutch did shut schools, but they're hoping to reopen them in the next couple of weeks. And because the fatality rate amongst children is tiny, I mean, it's less than 0.1. It's less than 0.1%.
I don't know if you know, in our age group of people, I think it's something like 10 million people have been infected with it, and out of the
10 million,
worldwide.
Worldwide, and out of the 10 million that's got it, it's something like 2 or 5 people have actually died from it in our age group.
I mean, it's
not too bad, actually.
Well, it's brilliant.
It's amazing. I mean,
that's what I mean.
It's elderly people, clearly, who it impacts more. But the interesting thing is that I mean, they're still doing tests on this, but a couple of weeks ago there were a lot of worries that if you caught it, you could get it again quite easily. And they started suggesting this because of some tests that they carried out in South Korea amongst people who'd had it. They were tested again after they'd recovered, and it appeared to show that they had it again. But actually, it
so
turned out
the tests were wrong.
That is brilliant.
It turned out the test kits weren't functioning properly. So it turned out.
Guess their career was over.
Oh, for God's sake!
Got you there, Matt.
You two are insatiable. It's yeah. So there is hope with that. There is hope with that on the reinfection front. That it's.
I don't know if you've seen the graph. You know the graph, that the line graph they have of the worst affected countries by death in Europe. I saw one on Sky News, and they just changed. They changed the bottom line to deaths per million, and when you put it like that, our death rate is actually quite low.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. In terms of deaths, in terms of population, in terms of deaths, in terms of population density, as I explained a couple of weeks ago, we're not doing too badly.
No, Belgium's the worst.
It's only because of the total amount of deaths we look at, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. But you've got to be very, very careful how you look at that. And also, we're the only country reporting our full death figures for this. I mean, I saw one estimate which said that Italy could potentially have a 50% excess death rate. So so they could have a death rate which they haven't reported of up to 50%.
Yeah, the other thing is...
And they have already got 30,000 on paper already.
Yeah, apparently. So they could have another... Italy could easily have another 15,000 deaths.
That's pretty scary to think of, actually.
On our death certificates, they count deaths that just have COVID-19 on the death certificate, not as the cause of death.
Exactly.
So your cause of death could be pneumonia, for example.
Yeah, I saw the case.
That's an interesting way of.
It just so happens that coronavirus is on there.
Yeah, that also distorts the results, and that's just not in this country. That's in probably a lot of countries.
Yeah.
They always want the figures to look lower than they actually are, I guess.
Yeah, but it's also like I saw the case of a guy on Twitter who it was some relation of him. I can't remember which relation. It might have been his I think it was his father, who had cancer, but he caught COVID-19 and he died. And they put COVID-19 on his death certificate, but he'd been pretty close to death by the time he caught COVID-19 anyway. So
I haven't heard much about Russia's death. Right.
Russia,
and they had a spike in deaths recently, didn't they?
The Russian death toll currently, officially, the official Russian death toll is currently below 3,000 deaths, which is rubbish.
That's nothing.
There is no way that Russia has a death toll that low.
No,
probably more like 10,000 at that.
There must
be more than that.
There was one country, I can't quite remember where it was. That obviously it was VE Day celebrations last week, and one country went ahead with full celebrations. They had a full military.
It was Belarus.
Belarus.
Belarus. Yeah, they haven't taken it seriously at all, I think.
Did you hear what the Belarusian president said? A guy called Alexander Lukashenko. He's called Alexander Lukashenko. This guy. He said.
Lukashenko.
Alexander.
Sounds like a cocktail.
Yeah, I know.
Cocktail Lukashenko, anyone?
But he said that the best way, which it suits me, but the best way to combat COVID-19
is drinking alcohol.
Drink lots and lots of vodka.
Yeah.
I mean, if he wants
just
to
go
be
for a daily session to combat it.
If he wants to be a stereotype, I mean, then let him. I mean, have you guys ever seen a picture of Lukashenko?
No.
I don't think I have, no.
He looks like how you would imagine a Russian-style dictator to look. He's
brilliant.
He's got
so not a small.
Might just get a photo of him now.
No, he's incredible. He's very tall and really broad across his shoulders. Like he's built like a man mountain. He's built like a tank.
He looks like Dwayne.
Does he have his shirt off as well?
No, there's no picture of him with his shirt off, unlike Putin. But he's got jet silvery hair, like he's clearly dyed it.
Is it Philip Schofield?
It's not Philip Schofield because it's not spiky. It's like combed back like that, and he's got like quite a large mustache, and really.
I mean, this guy.
That is the Belarusian president who said that you should drink vodka to combat COVID-19.
He does.
That's the weirdest moustache I've ever seen in my life.
He's also another similarity he has to Vladimir Putin. He has a big fetish for ice hockey. He's a massive ice hockey fan.
I didn't think ice hockey was a thing over in Eastern Europe.
Of course it is. It was
Vladimir Putin loves it.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
It's his favourite sport.
Along with horse riding.
I thought they were more known to
looking as manly as possible.
But there we go.
But no, he's. I mean, Lukashenko is very much a remnant from the old Soviet days. I mean, the Belarusian army, they wear the uniforms of the old Soviet army. They have Soviet-style equipment and weapons. Their
going the full retro then.
Yeah, their secret service is called the KGB.
No.
Yeah, I mean, Lukashenko
Are they stuck in the 1980s?
I'm surprised they haven't been done for copyright.
well, Belarus was part of the Soviet Union, so technically they couldn't be. But Belarus is what is regarded nowadays as Europe's last dictatorship. It's the only country in Europe with the death penalty. It's run very much in terms of how law and order works. It's run very much along the old Soviet-style lines.
I believe it's only been its independent nation for nearly 30 years. I think it was always part of Russia.
Yeah,
until the Soviet. It was. So it's pretty much the last 30 years. They've literally been their own country for a very short period of time. So they're just figuring out the waters, so to speak.
Well, an American. I had a friend at university who was American, and I had a discussion with him one day about Lukashenko and Belarus. And the thing is that.
Did he just start going USA?
No, he didn't. The thing is that Belarus, the Belarusian people are actually very similar to Russians. Belarusian is basically just a dialect of Russian. They have kind of the same outlook on life, the same customs, all that kind of stuff. So what he's saying is that one possible scenario for what might happen to Belarus in the future is that once Lukashenko dies, Russia will just take over Belarus again, and they probably wouldn't meet much resistance, which is slightly concerning because it kind of falls into the Russian government's like expansionist tendencies, like they've tried obviously in Ukraine and elsewhere. So that's one to. I mean, I still don't think there's a chance. I still think there's a chance it won't happen because like Lukashenko has been sort of preparing his son. He's only about 12.
Gosh, way to start MERP early then.
Yeah, but he's been sort of.
They're presumably pro-Russia, of course.
By and large, yeah, they've had fallouts with Russia in the past.
Let's be honest.
Make up.
We shouldn't be scared of Russia taking over the world because the only countries that are ever going to get hold of are countries that don't really matter, like Belarus.
Well, yeah, I mean Belarus, yeah.
Just
like a pawn in a chess game, Belarus.
The only country they might be able to get hold of is France, but that's because France just give in to anything.
Anybody that invades them, we'll just give up. Just surrender and eat garlic.
I'll tell you what I didn't know. Speaking of surrendering and VE Day and everything, I didn't realise that the person that wrote the German surrender document was English.
Was he?
Yeah.
Really?
I was watching a documentary on BBC News because they were doing all the VE Day stuff, and apparently the person that drafted the German surrender document was an English soldier.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, they'd have probably dropped. Well, I think that's kind of common because the Germans would have been forced to read it and accept it.
There you go. We'll give you some crappy terms now. Sign it.
Like they did with Versailles, which in hindsight, the Treaty of Versailles was probably not such.
It was incredibly biased against the Germans. The Treaty of Versailles.
Yeah, that was not a good idea because that kind of fed into the myth, the stab in the back myth that Hitler used to take power.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was kind of like. Yeah, shouldn't have done that, to be honest.
Well.
What did you guys do for VE Day?
Didn't really celebrate it, to be honest. I think it was.
I got very drunk.
Oh really? Oh, did you? How much did you drink?
Not a huge amount, but we had a bit to drink. So obviously, it's a.
You had the flag on your house as well, didn't you? Which I thought was very nice.
We did. We had the Union Jack and some bunting, and some notices and whatnot, which was rather nice. And we had a bit because VE Day is very important in my family.
Understandable, yeah.
We had a bit to drink. We watched a lot of the taught the coverage and the programs that they'd made for it and all that kind of stuff. Apart from that, we just kind of did because we're painting the house at the moment, so we did some more of that.
I thought the V-Day colour program was very interesting as well.
There were loads of houses around here blasting out old army music. Which
we'll meet again. Did anyone? Nice. Was Vera Lynn on the telly the other night?
Yeah, and then Catherine, who is it? The opera singer. Catherine Jenkins came on. I can't stand her. She really grates my teeth.
She's quite good looking, though.
Is that a suggestion, Matt?
No. She just irritates me. She always has that annoying smirk on her face. You just want to you just want to
get rid of it.
I don't think her voice is that. I don't know. She just sounds like she whines all the time.
Well, that can get a bit grating at times. Oh, that's even better as well. The Welsh love to whine a bit.
Wales.
Yeah.
I can only think of Liam Wood when it comes to the Welsh accent and the gay man on Little Britain.
Oh yeah, what was he called? David.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realise David. I didn't realise David Attenborough was also in. Was he in the Home Guard or something?
Yeah, he was in the Home Guard.
Maybe he was commentating on how the wars, and here we are, the humans in their natural habitat fighting for dominance.
Can you imagine him as kind of like a Private Pike figure in the Home Guard?
Yeah.
He'd get distracted. He'd get distracted by animals.
And here we have an animal about to be blown up.
Interestingly, his birthday's also on VE Day.
Yeah, it is. Oh, look
8th of May, 1926, I believe.
He'd be going, look at this beautiful bird, and then they'd be going, shoot the bloody German!
Oh, sorry, I got a bit distracted there. Sorry, chaps.
It'll be more like Godfrey then.
Yeah.
Except Godfrey was always caught short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to have seen that happen, though.
But what else has been in the news?
Not a lot, really.
Apart from coronavirus, not much.
We've had
they were going on about restarting the Premier League season at some point, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's stupid. This just backs up my theory that most football fans.
Oh, here we go again.
Incompetent.
I think they might as well just scrap this season and just start the next one. But that's only because you want Leeds United to go back.
Yeah, but I want Leeds.
Yeah, see what I mean? It's because you want Leeds to get promoted.
What can't people understand that having a bunch of footballers and the trainers and the people to open the pitches, and doing sport makes you sweaty, makes you breathe heavy. What is safe about that?
Definitely nothing at all.
It's just stupid.
They're talking about as well,
and they're not short of money.
Not allowing spectators into the grounds to watch the matches at all. But even then, I think it's kind of too late to restart the season now and get it finished before the next one. So they might as well just cancel it. Sorry, Leeds.
Oh.
I don't know much about I don't know much about football. I just know that Leeds are quite shit.
No, we're not. We're top of the championship. We were going to get promoted this year.
But you haven't won the first division since 1992.
Well, that's because we had an idiot chairman who spent all the money, and we got relegated.
Oh my God, this is actually a classic.
I mean, all I know that is
I'd love to go to a Leeds match with you at some point, Matt.
I know quite a lot of Leeds United supporters just because of being from Yorkshire. I know that I don't ever know a Leeds fan that's ever happy.
Well, Leeds
talking about?
Leeds fans are renowned. Well, they have a big reputation, at least. A lot of them
renowned
being
pessimists.
Yeah, but I mean, Leeds fans have got a bad reputation quite a bit.
Also, the
ones that don't behave, that is. They're like the Millwall of the North.
Their stadium does look atrocious.
It's a big stadium. for a club in the Championship. We are at heart a Premiership team. We should be in the Premiership. We've got the
okay.
We've got the heritage.
Why aren't you in the? Why aren't you then?
Because we had
you're
a
not
succession.
good enough.
Because we had no. Hang on a minute. We were going to get promoted this season before the season. Hang on.
I have to say, viewers, this is just brilliant to watch.
We were top of the Championship table before they suspended the Premier League. So you can't say that we're terrible. We're not exactly like York City or Scunthorpe United.
Why aren't you in the?
Oh dear, Matt! Come on,
why aren't you in the Premier thingy?
Because our chairman a few years ago. No, because our chairman. No, because our chairman, who was an idiot, overspent, and as punishment, we have to go down a couple of divisions into League One.
Surely the only reason you go down is because you haven't won enough matches.
No, like Rangers were forced to go down. It wasn't because they lost all the matches. They
Harry,
is this true? As punishment.
The bit about Rangers is true. To be fair,
is it true that you can get pushed down because you have overspent?
No.
Yes.
Well, in Rangers' case, that was because they've spent so much money that they couldn't pay back all their debtors, I believe. But in Leeds' case, they just didn't win enough matches.
Exactly.
In 2003, 2004, that's when they were last in the Premier League.
We didn't have enough money to buy good players.
Or is it because your chairman spent it all while trying to get to the Champions League semi-finals in 2001?
Exactly. So because you didn't have good enough players, you weren't good enough to win matches. So the reason you're not in the good bit of football is because you didn't win enough matches.
We would have been in the good bit of football if we got promoted this season, which was what was going to happen before coronavirus started.
Wow. And to conclude, Leeds are terrible.
No, they're not.
Oh dear.
I'm trying to think of an analogy of what this is like.
What Leeds or the lockdown?
Leeds. I mean, isn't it kind of like saying, I can't think of one, but you can't blame the fact that they have no money for not being in the Premier thingy.
Not being... Sorry, I'm completely lost.
Well, you can't. Surely you can't blame the fact that they overspent.
We did
overspend. But that doesn't.
When you sign new players, you have to think about the future as well. And I think the chairman was only signing players, but he wasn't thinking of the long term for Leeds as well.
No,
exactly.
That's where Leeds came wrong.
But you can't blame overspending.
Because some little clubs just buy players for the sake of it.
Okay. That's like
because if we'd won the UEFA Champions League final, which is we should have done, until we got beaten by Galatasaray because the night before the game, 2 of our fans were murdered by Galatasaray supporters. If we'd have got to the final and won the match, we'd have had more money coming. We'd have been able to buy better players. So yes, it does go down to overspending because we were expecting more money to come in after winning the Champions League final, but we didn't get to the Champions League final, so we didn't get more money.
Because you weren't good enough to win the matches.
No,
it's like
it was just poor planning in the short term. Let's put it.
Isn't that like a band saying we overspent on recording and that's why our song isn't in the top 10? When in actual fact, the reason they're not in the top 10 is because some people have better songs than them.
No, it's not.
Or more marketable music.
It's not similar to that. We'd have got if we'd won the Champions League final, which until Galatasaray beat us because of the 2 Leeds fans being murdered the night before
although it is very sad that 2 people got murdered, how does that mean
it affected the mindset of the players?
To be fair, Leeds didn't do very well in that match at all against Galatasaray in 2000.
No, because we were completely phased by what happened.
I mean, going for an away day in Turkey is not advisable at all, to be quite honest.
It was in Turkey.
Mm. Yeah.
We'd have made enough money to have got better players had we won the final. of the championship match.
Blame Galatasaray.
Yeah.
Anyway,
A lot of it does come down to overspending.
Should
Not
we
all of it,
move?
but a lot of it.
Should we move on?
It still is my position that football should not be started.
Well, I'm happy because they're restarting golf. So,
as long as you're 2 meters away.
Well, you can go with your family.
Well,
so
I think most golf spectators are 2 meters away, partly because there's never anybody at the match.
Or maybe the spectators are the ones watching it.
How you little.
Oh, here we go! It's going for a hole in one.
Golf is one of the best money-making sports that there is at the moment.
I would.
In the Middle East, it's a big business. Apparently,
in the Middle East, in Asia, in America, it is massive in terms of how much funding they get, and in terms of.
I mean, it's not my favourite sport, but you can't deny how long-lasting it has been.
Funding and sponsorship that there is in golf is huge.
I get that. It is just very boring.
It's not boring. It's not boring.
I think people who find a sport boring technically don't really know how a sport works,
George,
to be honest.
You just find every sport boring.
Compared to, say, like when the World Cup was going on, I don't like football, but I would happily watch the football because it's entertaining and you don't have to know much about it. Whereas golf, it's not difficult. It's just not very fast. It doesn't bring people together like football does, for example.
To be fair, I think football's the sport that brings people together, or at least the majority of people together. I mean, you hear about the World Cup and the Euros when it's on, but you don't hear about the Masters, which goes on every April, for example.
You do hear about them. You hear about the Ryder Cup.
Golf. I thought golf was not on free-to-air television now. It's only on Sky Sports, isn't it?
It's Sky, which is a joke.
Because I mean, even up to 10 years ago, the Masters was on BBC or something.
It was.
And I used to see the highlights of that, but now they don't even show highlights.
It was only recently when they moved it to Sky, and that's a joke.
Yeah, it's a bit like cricket in that respect.
They probably don't get
enough because they did the same with cricket.
They won't. It's because they won't get enough people watching. For something to be on ITV or BBC, you have to have a very big audience.
The problem is when cricket and Formula One were on free-to-air television, they got more viewers in the UK. But since they've moved to pay-per-view television, the viewers have been significantly less.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind them doing it with F1 because F1 is boring. But
no,
it's not.
I love Formula One.
It is boring. They're just going round a track.
There's much more to that.
It's better than walking around a field.
They have about. I'm sorry, but they have about one. No, but the expectation with Formula One is that they're having crashes left, right, and centre, and they're not. And that's what everybody. Let's be honest. That's what
there is a bit of strategy to Formula One, though, with how the tyres and the fuel works. You know, it's quite extraordinary, really. Once you get into it.
Yeah, but it happens so quickly that you blink and you miss it. So what's the point?
But then you are an old man.
At least with golf. At least with golf, you can watch a good golfer taking a beautiful shot on the fairway, and
you can't even see the ball.
Yes, you can.
I mean, we can. I think golf is basically just a glorified version of Countryfile.
It is not a glorified version.
A bit like the Countryside, but on a polished field.
How can it be a glorified version of Countryfile when most golfers, when we get a badger on the golf course, most golfers would see that the badger's set is blown up. How's that
let's
go and blow up a badger's set.
There's one thing that can settle this argument. Donald Trump likes golf.
That doesn't mean anything. But
he doesn't like Formula One. Therefore,
well, to be fair, Americans don't like Formula One in general, I think. It's not as marketed well.
Like NASCAR.
Yeah, but Bernie...
NASCAR they're starting racing soon, NASCAR.
Is boring.
Yeah.
NASCAR is boring.
We can all agree that American football and NASCAR is terrible.
Yeah.
And baseball.
Oh, well, there's nothing appealing about baseball, to be honest.
Baseball is...
It's like a cheap man's version of cricket.
Yeah, I mean, cricket is fun and exciting, whereas baseball takes bloody ages.
Yeah. Except and baseball's quite dumbed down as well, I think.
The funny thing about America is that, and I went to a couple of American football matches.
Oh, did you? Did you see an NFL team?
Not NFL, but they're only local things. But most of the people that go there really don't care about the match. They're either there to get drunk,
have buffalo wings,
see the friends, or eat.
Yeah.
Well, that's the Americans. They absolutely love eating.
Nothing happens in American football, though. Like, I saw a statistic. It's like 80% of the game is taken up with essentially the referee explaining what different moves are. Because
they do a movement. They do a movement, and once that's finished, they stop the game. They reassemble into positions, and as you say, the referee just explains what's going on. It's like a game of chess, really. You can
only move forward three steps at a time. I think that's the rule in American football. You can only push forward 3 times, and if you haven't got to the touchdown line within 3, then it goes to the other team, and that's why it takes so long.
Yeah, I haven't got.
There's never enough. Time
I don't really know the rules of American football, to be honest. I watch the Super Bowl once a year, but that's about it.
All I know is when I watched it over there, I did not know what the hell was going on.
Yeah, it's like rugby as well. I think if you watch it and you have no idea about the rules, then you literally have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I can understand rugby for wusses.
The other thing I find odd about American football is the fact that there's a bunch of middle-aged, bald, fat men watching cheerleaders.
Yeah, that's...
It tends to be that white trash kind of thing.
I do find it a bit creepy.
Yeah, it's a bit...
Yeah, it's cringeworthy to say the least. But then I think that's part of the American showbiz kind of thing. They always do these things at sporting events.
Another sport
comes across as weird. Yeah.
The thing with cheerleading, though, like they do like stunt cheerleading, which is actually quite good because they do all those different kinds of stunts and somersaults and whatnot in the air.
Yeah, it's more just the middle-aged men watching it that put me off.
Yeah, I know.
The white
because I do. To be fair, I do remember asking a Yank whilst at this game, do you find the whole cheerleading thing a bit odd? And he said, yeah, I don't really understand why.
I think it probably comes across as a bit faked and forced as well, I guess.
Well, they're Americans, what do you expect?
Yeah, but I mean, just a bit cheesy, isn't it?
I think that's what I don't like about American comedy as well.
It's
we've discussed this. Yeah,
it's very...
it's very forced.
Yeah, I mean, there are good American
there
comedies.
are some.
Like, Cheers is very good. Frasier is very good, but Frasier is very good largely because I think one of the writers on it was British.
The saving grace a bit, I guess.
Yeah, I quite like Parks and Recreation, actually. I do quite like that. Have you two heard of that? It's done in the same format as The Office, in like kind of a mockumentary style format. It's set in American local government somewhere in Indiana, I think.
Yeah,
I might take a note of that actually.
They have a character on it.
Go on.
They have a character on it called Ron Swanson. And he's basically this big middle-aged guy with a proper walrus moustache, and he's a libertarian, so he just thinks government is bad, and
walrus
that's the
face.
end of it. and he does his best to just obstruct anything his department wants.
Basically, an American and bigger version of the Belarusian president.
No, because he thinks government's a bad thing, so he just does his best to obstruct anything government.
I used to prefer the American Office, but I prefer.
I've never seen the American Office, to be honest. I've only seen memes of it. That's about it.
It's good at first, and then you kind of realise that it's just really the humour's not very clever. It's just silly.
Yeah.
See,
which is funny for a
It's
bit.
it kind of goes on the coattails of the success of the British version, which I've always preferred anyway.
See, I just don't like cringe comedy, so I never liked the UK version of The Office, which is the US version. It's not as cringy, so that's kind of why I prefer it.
Hmm.
And also,
each their own.
I'm quite a big fan of Steve Carell, so
Yeah, I like Steve.
He's very good.
I like Steve Carell. I don't know. I like British.
He's brilliant
comedy.
as Brick in Anchorman.
Oh God.
I still think the best comedy show ever is Alan Partridge.
That is good, I must say. That reminds me, I need to watch it again.
But I do agree with you that most American sitcoms are just dreadfully
There is one good
forced.
thing about America in terms of entertainment. They did take James Corden away from us.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, they did.
Did they get fed up with him as well?
He is not funny.
He's still. He is still. His humour's very suited to America.
Let's be honest.
It's so over the top and
without
daft.
sounding harsh.
I've never been a big fan of him anyway.
This is going to sound really harsh. If he wasn't overweight, he wouldn't be as successful.
Ooh.
Because that is
harsh.
That is part of his humour, that he takes the mick out of himself.
Yeah, and he's not as overweight as he was.
If
he lost a lot of weight.
I'll be honest. I've always just seen him as a bit of an annoying person, to be honest. I don't know why, but he just strikes me that way. I think that's probably why he's not too successful.
Well, he's massive in America.
But I mean, with us Brits, I mean, he's like you love him or you hate him. A bit like Marmite.
He's very Marmite over here.
He was good. He was good with Gavin and Stacey, but his own stuff's crap.
Yeah, I mean, Gavin and Stacey, I've started watching it quite recently. It's actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
there's some really funny stuff in Gavin and Stacey.
I might delve into that as well, actually.
It's better than I thought.
I used to think it was just really overrated, but yeah,
I've been rewatching.
Maybe it has aged quite well.
I've been rewatching all the Harry Potter films.
For the 500th time.
I have watched
the Harry Potter movies. You can never get tired of watching.
I have watched Harry Potter way too many times.
Yeah,
but I mean, for me, it is just
Harry Potter.
It's just amusing as well when
Voldemort's in the room.
When Voldemort first reappears in a somewhat of human form, if that's what you can call it, and he touches Harry's forehead and just goes,
"I can touch you."
Yeah, he does do that. And just makes the noises.
Ralph Fiennes not laugh when he said that.
Yeah, it's testament to the performance of Ray Fiennes, really, because it is a very good performance.
Yeah.
But
he does it quite well, to say the least. He does sound like a very vulnerable.
Who would you say is your favourite Harry Potter character, George?
Oh,
this is going to be a very interesting question.
I like Voldemort just because it's Voldemort. I quite like Luna. She's just because she's wacky.
Yeah, Luna Lovegood. Yeah,
bonkers.
She's wacky, but in a good way.
Yeah.
I like the little guy that Warwick Davis played.
The music teacher.
Flitwick.
Yeah, Flitwick.
Yeah, Professor Flitwick. Yeah, I quite like him as well.
I mean, Hagrid's great, obviously.
What about Snape?
I should not have said that.
Oh yeah, I do like Snape.
Alan Rickman performs him very well.
He was an insufferable know-it-all.
I do miss Alan Rickman, to say the least. Brilliant actor.
I don't know if you know this. There's a scene in I think it's the Goblet of Fire or Azkaban, one of those, it's the Prisoner of Azkaban, when Sirius Black's apparently roaming the castle and all the students are sleeping in the hall. And whilst they were filming it, Michael Gambon and Alan Rickman played a prank on Harry Potter.
Yes, I've seen
fart
that.
Machine.
They got a fart machine in his sleeping
that was
bag.
Brilliant. Yeah. You'd think they were the most utterly serious actors ever, but once they heard that fart machine, they could not stop laughing.
Yeah.
Michael Gambon, of all people, you wouldn't expect him to put a fart machine.
Of course, there's the famous.
It's just a pleasure to see Severus Snape smile, let alone laugh.
Yeah, there is the famous meme of changing the word wand with Willy.
Oh God. There's so many good ones in that.
Yeah. Too
Harry
many.
Harry got out his willy and white sparks came from it.
and the mock the week.
Oh yes,
Professor McGonagall. Professor McGonagall.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Harry. I'm having a baby, and it's yours," said Professor McGonagall.
Oh my God. Was that when Frankie Boyle was on the show? Or...
It was a Hugh Dennis joke. That one,
I see.
That was a Hugh Dennis gag.
Quite a good one, that, to say the least.
Frankie Boyle's one was very controversial.
Did he cause a few complaints as a result?
Well, one of his jokes was, as the old man stood there with his hands ready, wearing his robes, Harry regretted transferring to Catholic school.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
I remember that one. I mean, the only bit of Harry Potter I think is really bad is in the very last film when it shows them as adults.
When it's 2019 or whatever it is, when they're sending their kids.
It just looks stupid.
In the book, though.
It is in the book, yeah. Yeah,
I guess they had to include that though, whether you like it or not. I mean, as Matt said, it was in the book.
There is talk of them making a new Harry Potter film though.
Oh, just stop!
Yes,
with the original cast.
They should just know when to finish it. It's like Star Wars in that regard.
I would be interested to see
God.
it.
Oh God, the Star Wars.
I think I'm more of a Harry Potter fan than Star Wars, to be honest.
Yeah, but the thing is, the Star Wars fans, it's like The Mandalorian. I think The Mandalorian was a great idea, and it's actually a good. And The Mandalorian is actually a really good series. And some of the cartoon series they did for Star Wars, like the Clone Wars, is very good. For example, I agree. But I mean, and it actually makes the prequel trilogy better, I think, as the Clone Wars. But
the prequel trilogy was good.
The prequel trilogy is a million times better than the sequel trilogy.
The funny thing I find
never ever have done the sequel trilogy. I'm sorry. I know that might be controversial. But...
The funny thing about the Disney Star Wars films.
Yes, the sequel trilogy.
Is it the Last Jedi when they try and find Skywalker?
They're looking for him in The Force Awakens.
That was it. And the whole time...
Force Awakens was the first one.
The whole time he was
on... It was episode 7, yeah.
Yeah.
The whole time he was on top of a mountain in Ireland.
Yeah.
Episode 8.
Then in and then they killed him off in the next film. They killed Luke Skywalker off, and it just seems so pointless.
Yeah.
I think the thing I like about Harry Potter is that it's a very English thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I mean, if they're doing more Harry Potters, I think it's like Star Wars. They're just doing it for more money and not actually have a decent story.
Yeah, I think she'd have to write another book as well.
Yeah, but she's branched out into other things now, hasn't she?
Yeah, you've got Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. We have 2 films for that. It's okay, but it's not a patch on the Harry Potter films.
It's like Paul McCartney's career in Wings compared to the Beatles.
Yeah,
it's like Paul McCartney's newest album, which is
Egypt Station. Oh dear.
I mean, I'm sorry. 70-year-old men are. How old is he?
78 this year.
78-year-old men should not be singing about meeting girls in bars.
Somebody should tell Mick Jagger that as well.
Yeah, someone should tell Mick Jagger that. I mean, he took it one step further and had a kid.
That's the thing with McCartney and Jagger. I don't think they know when to give it up. I mean, legendary as they are, I think they've had their time, to be honest.
Yeah. I suppose that's the good thing about, well, not good, but people like Kurt Cobain and Fred, people that die young, they're remembered for what they did good rather than their
there can be that martyrdom status
career.
People like John Lennon and Kurt Cobain got. Paul
Can you imagine
McCartney's
what John
mentioned it.
Lennon would be like now if he was still alive?
He'd probably still be as angry as he was when he was in his 30s.
I wonder if he'd still be married to Yoko.
Because he was a bit of a tosser, to be honest.
I don't think he'd have got through Me Too.
No, he definitely wouldn't.
I don't think he'd have escaped the clutches of the Me Too.
Harry, do you remember what that was?
Vaguely.
It was the thing that set off all the Harvey Weinstein.
Oh yes, I remember. Yes,
it's still I mean, the Me Too stuff's still going on.
But I mean, John Lennon was a woman beater.
Oh, yeah, he was horrific to his first wife. Honestly, and he treated his first son like he didn't even exist. He apparently was sorry for it later in life, but you know, you can't change the past. You know, sometimes you got to live with what you've done. I think.
I mean, he abused women like Yoko Ono abused my ears.
Well, it's not hard for Yoko Ono to abuse somebody's ears.
I mean, that Johnny B. Good thing is the worst thing I've ever seen.
God.
Would you rate that as even worse as when she butchered The Great Gig in the Sky?
Yes.
No, I wouldn't.
The thing is, with Great Gig in the Sky, it was just her. She was.
And to be fair, the screaming in Great Gig of the Sky is intended.
She was interrupting two of the world's greatest musicians in Johnny B. Good, and she just looked like an idiot.
Yeah.
Beating a drum.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I mean, she was just screaming.
Yeah,
like a little rabbit,
bad.
Almost. Yeah,
it was very bad. That
was a funny yawn, Matt.
I was trying to hold it in.
Well, you didn't hide it very well.
Yeah.
But yes, I think that just says it all, really.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Paul McCartney should stop. So should Mick Jagger, and Yoko Ono should stop.
Well, apparently Keith Richards will be going on for the dawn of time. Even when there's a nuclear apocalypse, you could have Keith Richards performing.
I mean, he's basically defied the laws of science in terms of the health of his body. How he's still alive, I do not know.
You could ask Ozzy Osbourne the same question, though. Ozzy's health has gone downhill a bit recently.
Well,
but he's got this Parkinson's thing, hasn't he?
Which I'm still confused about, because it's not actual Parkinson's.
It's in the same sort of disease family as Parkinson's, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised Ozzy Osbourne hasn't got more than that.
Well,
apparently he does have alcohol-related tremors or something like that.
That's no surprise.
Yeah,
that's not surprising.
To be honest, this might be a bit controversial, but I've never really liked Black Sabbath.
I guess, well, they're a bit like Marmite. You like them or you don't.
I like a few of their songs.
I'd say they're the Beatles of heavy metal, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a big influence on heavy metal.
Paranoid album especially is brilliant. But
oh yeah, Ozzy Osbourne's new song though is quite funny.
Was that the one he did with Post Malone?
No, Ozzy Osbourne featuring Elton John.
Oh God.
In which
were they singing that just to collect their pension?
In which
that's another one who needs to stop, Elton John.
Well, he is.
It
was his
God.
It's actually his retirement tour, I think.
Yeah.
Elton John.
Well,
not now, obviously, but
his retirement tour that's going on for 3 years.
It's supposed to end next year as well.
Well, it won't be.
He's probably going to extend it because of all this.
Who knows? He might extend it for another 5 years. Though it might just be some marketing thing. Ozzy Osbourne tried to retire in the early 90s, but then he came back. Apparently, Motley Crue played their last concert as well a couple of years ago, but apparently they're trying to get back together for another tour.
Well, they were supposed to be going on tour with Def Leppard. That's one good thing about coronavirus. It stopped the Def Leppard Motley Crue tour.
Yeah.
But honestly, they should have been killed off in the 80s, both bands.
But anyway, the new Ozzy Osbourne song, the funniest thing, well, it's not funny, but it kind of is him sat in his home cinema crying at videos of his life because he can't remember half of it.
Isn't it a bit like is that a bit like a poor man's version of Johnny Cash's Hurt or something? The music video, that is.
Yeah.
Maybe. But
Yeah, but the musician who's grown old gracefully and sort of he's not fully retired, but semi-retired gracefully, of course, is Eric Clapton.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Eric Clapton's done it well.
He's had a few controversies in his time, though. I mean, he was accused of making a racist remark at some concert in the 70s, but he stayed out of trouble since the 70s.
To be honest, what rock
Plus, he had a bit of a heroin addiction in the early 70s as well.
What rock star hasn't caused controversy?
Yeah, in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, I mean, they either cause controversy by saying something stupid, or they cause controversy by having an affair, or they cause controversy by having too much alcohol or drugs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, shall we leave it there, gentlemen?
Oh, I was enjoying that. I feel like we just got started.
Yeah.
No, but I enjoyed it.
It is 5:30.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a damn long time recording, but I enjoyed it, chaps. Yeah. I especially loved the bit about Leeds United.
Oh, God.
So
Let's
did I.
not get into that argument.
Or should we do it off camera now?
Oh, God. Okay.
I'll do my usual sign-off. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. If you want to see more of Matt Fender getting annoyed at us dissing Leeds United, give us a like on Facebook or subscribe to us on YouTube. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Leeds suck.